Good evening. My name is Jill Cohen, and I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Washtenaw County. I welcome you to our online forum featuring the candidates for Washtenaw Board of Commissioners, District 5. These candidates will be on the ballot in the primary election on Tuesday, August 2nd. For more than 100 years, the League of Women Voters has worked to expand voter rights and to educate voters. The League is a nonpartisan organization that neither endorses nor opposes candidates or political parties. However, we do take stands on issues we have studied. The League is providing this forum as an opportunity for candidates to express their views related to their candidacy. Statements expressed by the candidates are not endorsed nor opposed by the League of Women Voters. Also, the League of Women Voters does not certify any candidate responses to questions as accurate. Voters are encouraged to fact-check information shared at this forum. We bring you tonight's program because we deeply believe that an honest and respectful sharing of different views on issues facing our communities is vital to the functioning of American democracy. Our moderator this evening is John Chamberlain, who will explain the format and get us started.
Thank you, Jill. And it's my honor to introduce the candidates running in the Democratic primary for Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners, District 5. Justin Hodge, Ronnie Peterson, and Latitia Sharp. Thank you, candidates, for participating in tonight's event. And I'll go through quickly the ground rules. Each candidate will have 1 minute to make an opening statement. Each candidate will have a closing statement of up to 90 seconds. And in between, I will ask questions that came from the community. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer a question. At appropriate times, the timer will raise a sign on her screen indicating the time remaining 30 seconds and then stop. If you have used your time, you will be allowed to finish your sentence, but we ask you to bring it to a close at that point. The candidates will begin speaking in alphabetical order by last name. Depending on the number of questions, all candidates will have an opportunity to be the first or last to answer the questions. We're now ready for opening statements, and we'll begin with Mr. Hodge.
All right, thank you. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Commissioner Justin Hodge, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters for holding this forum and helping to bring attention to the issues facing our county, specifically Eastern Washtenaw County. I'm a lifelong Michigander, a licensed master social worker, and a professor of social work at the University of Michigan, where I teach graduate level policy courses. I've committed my entire career to public service and improving the lives of others. I first ran for county commissioner because I believe that everyone across our county should have the opportunity to be healthy, to build wealth, and to be safe. And I'm running for re-election to continue making progress on improving the health of our residents, disrupting generational poverty, promoting racial equity, and combating gun violence. The challenges we face require a forward-looking and progressive vision for Ypsilanti and Augusta Township, as well as the county as a whole. That's the kind of leadership I've provided in my first term and what I will continue to provide if I'm re-elected. Thank you, and I look forward to answering all your questions tonight.
Thank you. And now we turn to Ronnie Peterson for an opening statement.
First of all, let me thank the League of Women Voters for once again giving an outstanding program to the community to have the opportunity to meet the candidates for various offices in our community. I am very fortunate to have the opportunity to have served on the County Board of Commissioners as well as the Ypsilanti City Council and in the Michigan House of Representatives. I was born in the eastern side of the county. I was born right in Ypsilanti. My family has been there from 3 generations. My wife's family has been there since 1866, so it's been a part of our home and our life. I look forward to the challenge of this campaign as well as the opportunity to serve. Thank you again for this opportunity. Appreciate you.
Thank you. And finally, Latitia Sharp, your opening statement.
Hi, my name is Latitia Sharp, and I am honored to be here tonight. Thank you, Women of League voters. I appreciate this opportunity. I am running for county commissioner after 34 years of working in county government. I am a longtime resident here in Washtenaw County, growing up on the eastern side of the county, educated here in Washtenaw County. After 34 years, particularly working in the Office of County Administration, where I actually operationalize priorities of the current board, I decided to run because I wanted to bring those priorities, the voices to those priorities back from the community to the board. So that is why I'm running, and I appreciate this time.
Thank you, candidates. And now to the questions. As a reminder, I will read the question once, and it will not be repeated unless you request that it be repeated. So the first question, and Mr. Peterson will go first, is please identify the top 3 concerns citizens in Washtenaw County District 5 have expressed to you. If you are elected, describe the steps you would take to address one of these concerns and how you would pay for it.
That's the big question remained all is how we'll pay for it, but definitely the challenge is the rising cost of government and the rising cost of housing in our particular community. Our millage rate is consistently rising, and it means there's an economic response got to be made to that. We can no longer live on a very limited income and expect to continue to pay the rising taxes that are taking place on the eastern side of the county. I would think some of the programs I would look at to be successful, there's no question we have to do more around housing. We got to do more about economic growth and protect our environment in doing so to bring jobs into the community. How would I pay for it? I think that's an open door, but definitely I would not look for a bond or village to further finance government on the eastern side. Our wages are not growing aggressively enough.
Thank you. And now Ms. Sharp.
I've been talking with a lot of the residents over the last couple of weeks, and I asked, as I'm knocking on doors, what is their major concerns? And what I'm getting most is that they want to be heard. We had money coming to the county, and over 200, and I think I'm up to 234 residents that I actually spoke to didn't even know anything about it. So residents want to know what's going on in the government. Government needs to be transparent, it needs to be honest, and most importantly, government needs to have the voice of the people that put them there. So my biggest concern doesn't cost anything. The first thing that I would like to do is make sure that the citizens have a voice at the table, give them the opportunity to tell us, county government, what it is that they want, and then work to make sure that we can meet their needs. And so it wouldn't cost anything. It's just an opportunity to be heard.
Thank you. And finally, on this question, Mr. Hodge.
All right, thank you. So I think 3 of the top concerns that I'm hearing for residents include combating the affordable housing crisis, creating more opportunities for kids in our community, and combating community violence. I'm going to touch on, since you said to pick one, I'll touch on the community violence piece because it's a significant challenge in District 5. So we've been seeing a rise in gun violence. Largely it's kids shooting at each other, and part of that has to do with there's not enough recreational activities and after school programming for kids. So something that we've been working on and something that I've been taking lead on for the board on is coming up with opportunities for kids and to combat the gun violence that we're seeing. So I say I live in Sugarbrook, and when we have a rise in shootings, a lot of that's in my neighborhood. And we know that about 85% of the shootings that take place in Washtenaw County are retaliatory in nature. A large number of those are kids shooting at each other and acquiring guns from unlocked cars. So one of the things that we need to do is a public information campaign about, if you're, number one, if you have a weapon, take it back into your home. If you're going to leave it in your car, at least lock your car door. But something that we've done at the county already is I've been working with a group of people since last August on coming up with strategies to combat gun violence. The Board of Commissioners recently accepted the 14 recommendations put out by that group and committed to funding the 3 recommendations that are most relevant for the county. And that'll look like providing funding to do an asset map and a needs assessment. And of course, putting funding towards immediate needs like relocating people if they need rapid rehousing. That funding, a lot of that funding can come from American Rescue Plan dollars. They'd be a qualified expense for that, but also our general fund could be used for that.
Thank you. Okay. The next question, and in this case, Ms. Sharp, you will lead off. Please. The county has received substantial funds under the American Rescue Plan Act. Some residents of zip codes 48197 and 48198 are concerned that these federal funds are not being fairly allocated to their neighborhoods and are not being spent consistent with federal government guidelines. What is your view?
Well, I have a personal view and a professional view on that. I certainly understand the concern that the residents have because they are actually correct. Funds came into the county and the 9 commissioners that are currently on the board were given the task of setting the priorities on how we should spend those funds. And the community was not initially involved in that. There was loose guidelines that came from the federal government that gave the county board an opportunity to reach back to the community and find out, because each community is different. So whereas to broadband may be something that's extremely important on one side of the county, we know that public safety and youth programming is something too that I'm very sensitive about, because I understand that when you have children involved in programs, it's less, it's connected to the minimizing of the violence. But the American Rescue funding was not, I think, was not used in its full intention, and it was not, it did not consider the strong and important issues that were happening on the eastern side of the county, particularly in 48197, 4198. I know that for a fact. And then after the fact, the community had an outcry. Conversations were coming, people were upset. And it was only then, I think after the second allocation, that there was something done. So there was priorities that were set, but the priority that came in the first allocation was not a priority from the community. It was a personal priority from the board. And I just want to bring the voice back to the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hodge.
I think this is a great question because a lot of information came out about this early on. And there was like a draft of the first rescue plan package that came out that only included broadband. And then after that came out, as that came out, commissioners were having conversations about what more could be included in there to have a look that was more inclusive of the whole county. I was part of those negotiations and getting a lot more included in that Washtenaw rescue plan package than just broadband. The other piece about broadband too is that isn't just the western part of the county that didn't have access to the physical infrastructure to connect to the internet. There was 127 homes in Augusta Township and 141 in Ypsilanti Township that didn't have access that will now get access. But beyond that, we included much more that specifically focused on equity, such as the Children's Savings Accounts program, which will get all kids in Washtenaw County Public Schools access to a college savings account. And kids that are on free or reduced lunch are going to get a $500 seed to those accounts. And we did it that way so we could target the areas most in need. And a lot of that is in the 48197 and 48198 zip code. So I'd certainly say that the community's needs and concerns around that first rescue plan package were well heard. And before even voting on the first one, we included many other items in there, including the Children's Savings Account package, the program, the child care, a broadband affordability fund for families that have access to the internet but can't afford internet. So there are a number of items in that package. After that, we did a much better job, I think, at engaging the community with the second package. And right now we're in the process of planning listening sessions and engagement around the third package, which we'll likely be voting on in the upcoming months.
Thank you. Mr. Peterson.
Let me just say, I think, first of all, I would say that this is an excellent question, part of the other question. We should have had those engagement conversations a lot earlier. And part of those engagement conversations should have been county leaderships throughout the county, as well as the local communities. One, to know what are the priorities of our county and then a particular district. One is this county, Eastern Quarter, has been totally neglected over the years, totally neglected. And you talk about the issue of housing, affordable housing. You talk about the issues of healthcare. You talk about mental health services. It was a true need, and enough studies have been done already to show the huge gap, the academic and educational partnership that should exist in the county. Those kind of federal dollars should came together with the school district and with mental health and public health to deliver services. And those conversations should still be going on. Not because it's just important that we do it now. Those are limited dollars. Those dollars will eventually run out. What kind of milestone changes did we make in changing lives? The economic of this county is totally unbalanced. It's totally unbalanced. It would maybe never catch up. And because of that, we see the loss of home ownership on the eastern side of the county. And we see the lack of housing accessibility on the eastern side of the county. And how do we fix that if these federal dollars was available to make that happen? So I look forward to the challenge of having this kind of community conversation, because many of those advocacy groups that are out there who's making making the conversation loud and clear should be participating in the discussion, and county government should help map it out, because there's enough planning and mapping have been done over the years that we should be able to draw from some plan how to move forward with those federal dollars. Thank you.
Thank you. And for the next question, Mr. Hodge, you will lead off on this one. Please describe a specific example of how you made a difficult decision because of a core value that is important to you.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a good one because of, and building on my previous answer around that first rescue plan package, we were in a position where there was significant community engagement to the board, even prior to my time being on the board, to fund broadband. And then when the American Rescue Plan, was passed and broadband was one of the allowable expenses, there was significant push from a majority of the commissioners to go forward with doing that, while we knew that the infrastructure bill would likely pass at some point in the future. So it put us in a really, challenging situation in that if we would have went forward with what I would say a majority of commissioners were already going to do, we would have ended up with a package that only included broadband. What I was able to successfully do, and I credit my training as a social worker and as an educator around this, was engage with the commissioners that represent the other parts of the county in the spirit of collaboration to negotiate the inclusion of several other items in that rescue plan package that do benefit 48197 or 48198. And that was a challenge. And there was a lot of tense conversations around that as we worked to try to make that and improve that package. So that's my answer to that one.
Mr. Peterson, you're next.
Let me just say that it's a very difficult question for me to answer, because I never let it get in my way. I'm not a good person to sing in anybody's choir. I'm totally independent on my thoughts, my vision, my commitment. And if the crowd not with me, it's my job to persuade them to be with me on the best issues that I have concerns of advocating for the best issues of my constituency. So I don't never run in those kind of issues. I hope I do a fair job of doing my research and all the analysis to put on the table and ask my colleagues to consider. But they know if I don't agree, that don't mean they're gonna have my vote. I don't sell my vote, I don't compromise on my vote. And anyone can persuade me if I'm totally in disagreement with the rest of the body. And I think my reputation speaks for that over my years of being elected.
Thank you. And Ms. Sharp.
This is another one that I hold personal to me. I believe that I have the ability to have a strong, calm, and positive voice. And in my line of work, I hear a lot of conversations from the board, from folks on the board, and I see how decisions are made. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running, is out of frustration, because I know that it's not made for the good of the people. And so one of the decisions that I had to make that was against me is I actually had to leave my job because some of the commissioners were uncomfortable with the fact that I was running for county commissioner, which I have every right to do. And so I had to actually take a temporary transfer to another position, just because out of fear that I know some things that maybe I shouldn't know. But I think as a public official and as a county commissioner, you should always be doing the right thing. You should always be doing the right thing. So if you're doing the right thing, you don't have to worry about what might be said or what might not be done. And I agree to the point that as a county commissioner, you have an obligation to work with all people, not just the people you like, not just the people that like you. You have to work with all forms of government, everyone from the eastern side to the western side. So it's very difficult for me when I find that commissioners or people who sit in elected seats feel like they are obligated I feel like they are privileged to do what they want and not what the people want.
Thank you. Okay, on the next question, Mr. Peterson will go first. Does the county commission have legal authority to enact gun safety legislation? And if so, what would you do?
I think when you ask the question, guns legislation, no, I would think that they can do gun policies. I think they could do gun education, support gun control education, from material, from views to a speakers bureau, through educational material in our schools and our community. But the limited access of guns may be in county facilities and governmental facilities the county has a jurisdiction over. But that legislative power is not rendered to county government. So I do believe that we should do more for far as education of gun safety, and let me say prevention, making sure that guns are safe for those who have true ownership. And those who don't have ownership, I hope they volunteer and give them back to the sheriff department, let them destroy them. And I think we need to do more in that area. But legislative, the power is not rest with the County Board of Commissioners.
Thank you. Same question, Ms. Sharp.
I agree. I don't think that lies with the county under the authority of the county, but I do believe that if county government is working, for example, there's the gun shop and the gun store that's coming to Ypsilanti Township. If there was reasonable conversations where the two bodies were able to have conversations, then commissioners on this side of the county could have been at the table and having conversations with Ypsilanti Township. Not to stop it, but just to better understand what's going on and not behind the 8 ball and finding out later. And so I do think that at this point, we need to have more education with guns, and we need to make sure that we have gun safety rules, and we need to make sure that the sheriff department have what they need in order to help us facilitate that. We can't do it by ourselves, and no one government can do it. It's going to take the state, the city, the township, and the county all to come together to really take this thing, as important as it is, to work together. But for gun safety, I think that it takes all level of government and to really make an impact. And until we do that, we're going to have a problem.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hodge.
Yep. So it is not within the Board of Commissioners' ability to set any kind of gun restriction policy. That's a state level or federal level issue. I am supportive of Senator Irwin's bill, Senate Bill 352, which would allow local governments to be able to have control over where guns can appear in public spaces. But until something like that passes, we can't regulate who does or doesn't bring a firearm into a public building. What the county could do, and something that I'm supportive of, is supporting the sheriff's office on a gun buyback program and supporting residents that would benefit from having safe storage tools, whether that's us providing either a rebate or subsidizing that in some way. But I see those as our two biggest opportunities at the county level would be the buyback, a buyback program and safe storage opportunities.
Okay, thank you. The next question, and Ms. Sharp, you'll lead off on this one. Some areas within the county, such as Ann Arbor, are very successful in attracting capital. Please then identify 1 or 2 specific strategies to attract and retain businesses elsewhere in the county.
I think we have to look at the areas that are under, that just totally have been totally forgotten. If we look over on the Galt Village area in Ypsilanti, that's an area that I grew up as a child. I remember when there were stores and things over there, and you can shop there. Also over in the Sycamore Meadows area, I spent some time over there growing up as well. There's no grocery stores, and there's no I think that businesses that produce good living for people is what we need to promote here in Washtenaw County, particularly on this side of the county. So I would say there was some talk at some time about putting a recreation center over in the Galt Village area. And even though the recreation center is a topic that's been on the conversation of many folks since 2016, and I was part of those conversations, I would love to see a rec center on the eastern side of the county. But I think areas that I would look at areas that have been totally forgotten. So I would look at the Gulf Village area and then the areas where the schools are closed, but the buildings are just there and there's nothing there. And I would probably try to promote some incentive to bring businesses to those areas that's going to bring healthy living for those families. That's what I would like to see.
Mr. Hodge, you're next.
Yeah, so this is a really challenging question to solve because it's wrapped up in a lot of other issues. So I'd say businesses are attracted to areas where they know there's not going to be, gun violence or community violence, where they know where community is really strong. So one of the things that we need to do is to attract businesses is, one, combat the affordable housing crisis, get people, in stable housing. And many people want to be able to have the opportunity to walk to work. So with things within walking distance. So if we can combat community violence, we can increase housing opportunities. That's going to attract businesses, combating blight. So using the tools that the county has available to it to improve some of those areas. For example, like the Galt Village Shopping Center, if the county were able to partner with the township or acquire it on its own and rehab that space, that would be a great way to attract business there. Or to work in partnership with the property owner that already has it, that's yet to renovate it. So it's a series of things that need to be done, and combating many of the community issues in other areas that may not seem like they're directly related, but really they are. So, I mean, when people are looking for places to move, they're also looking at the quality of the schools and the resources available to their kids for the schools. So we have to combat all of those things, and that'll help bring more business in.
Thank you. Mr. Peterson.
Thank you for that question. It's a wonderful question about this particular community, where we go from here. There's no question Ann Arbor is a magnum. It's a magnum city of the country where businesses come and medical science and research come to. We're very fortunate in some respect. One is that we're able to piggyback on Ann Arbor's success and Ann Arbor growth, and hoping that they continue to expand, that people look toward the eastern side of the Washtenaw County to grow their companies and businesses. More priceable, suitable land, but also the possibility of hiring a workforce that is ready. And we got to continue to make them ready, academically trained for these two positions that may be coming about. Some of that went in place some years ago. We started East Spark on Michigan Avenue. We supported Back Office Studio, which is on Washington Street in Ypsilanti. All of those are incubator centers. And they would sit here to put up businesses who are locating out of Ann Arbor and everywhere and other places around the county to come in this particular community. There's no question what we're doing at the Mobility Center at Willow Run and the potential will happen at the Mobility Center. $100 million investment took place in the Mobility Center and the potential growth that will take place off of that. I think what we're seeing too on the Thompson Block in Depot Town that added numerous jobs as well as housing in that particular pocket community just in less than 9 months ago. Even when we were done with a major virus, we still had success coming out of that. I think when we look at the possibility is great there. We're making some major infrastructure improvement in the community on I-94 on Heron Street in Whitaker and in the West Willow corridor on US 12. All of that is making us ready for potential economic growth. We got to continue to grow the workforce though. And we need the community college to continue to weigh in, as well as our universities in this community, to take the value in an investment in the people. The infrastructure is coming together. The incubators are going in place. It is challenging time for us, because it's hard to compete in a market when dollars are short. We need to invest our dollars wisely in people, and people grow with the infrastructure and all the other things in place. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next question, Mr. Hodge will go first. The cost of conducting elections has escalated for reasons such as increased volume of absentee ballots and other expansions of voter services. Are election operations in Washtenaw County adequately funded? And if not, what could be done to adequately support elections?
Yeah, so I'm certainly in favor of all of the great expansions to voting rights over time, and I'm hopeful that the Promote the Vote ballot initiative and the other ones that would expand voting rights further do pass when they hit the ballot, assuming they get enough signatures. I would say that we maintain a strong relationship with the county clerk's office and provide support as needed. There are other reforms at the state level that are being looked at. One of them to consolidate the number of elections that we have per year I believe the proposal is to move, instead of having potential May elections and then August primary and then the November general, would be to move the August primary to the May election. So it would reduce the number of elections per year. That would help cut down on costs. But I think as far as the county is concerned, and with the Board of Commissioners' interactions with the clerk's office, I feel like we're in a really strong position and that they are appropriately funded.
Thank you, Mr. Jefferson. Mr. Peterson.
Let me just say that in my history dealing with the clerk's office, whenever they ask for something, they said they tend to get it. And I hope all the local municipalities who dealing with those challenges, they bring the attention to the county board as well. It's the local municipalities sometimes deal with the challenges of financing elections. But I hope in the county that we lend our support to those local communities to make sure that it's within budget and within reason that we do all the support we can to make sure elections is fair and equitable. My grandparents never did vote, my father's parents. So voting is important to me. They were too intimidated and too fearful. So election is a way of life for me, and I believe everybody must demonstrate that right to vote.
Thank you. Ms. Sharp?
I believe that everyone has the right to vote. I believe that everyone should vote. And I also believe in our county clerk's office. They do a wonderful job. I think that they are exceptional in their delivery. I do think that we have the funding. We don't have any issues that I am aware of. I used to service the county clerk's office in my position as an HR manager, and they've gotten award-winning awards for their service and their deliveries. I do believe that if there was some issue across the county, that they would step up to being able to service them. And as a commissioner, I would support them being able to do that. So I do think that they're properly funded.
Okay, but I think will probably be the final question. And Mr. Peterson, you'll lead off. The commission is facing many pressing issues, including affordable housing, racial equity, deteriorating infrastructure, climate change, and access to electric. If you could control the county's budget, in what areas would you increase funding and how would you pay for that increase?
If I can control the county budget, well, one thing for sure, one commissioner does not have that kind of power. That's when it takes collaboration and coordination with the other members of the board. I've seen it happen though. Let me just say that that's not a tabernacle choir who sits around that table. I've seen people make decisions and come back and say, this is the law of the land of the county. So it does happen. The end of the day is, I think it takes an effort. It takes an effort. Some people say the Eastern County has enough. This is what you're hearing from folks. Some say the Western County needs more. I think what we have to do is have a leadership meeting, have an open leadership meeting. We need to break away from this whole thing about the virus, keeps us from having a conversation and have conversations with the public, whether it's on Zoom or whether in any other particular body, that we have honest conversations where the need is, and where the need to be addressed the most. I mean, we just talked about just a few minutes ago, the striving of one community greater than any other in the county. And it's a whole segment of the county. And people say sometimes I'm just biased Eastern. I have never voted against a local initiative for any community in Washtenaw County. Never voted against them politically, sitting around a political table. The end of the day, we got to take on hard issues and hard problems collectively. We cannot look at ourselves just as individual commissioners. We got to look for the good and the benefit and the welfare of the county at large. So when I say tackle that with $1, that's not $1. It's more so where the brains come together. They got plenty of money. They got plenty of federal money. They got a huge reserve, what, $40-some million in reserves, unmarked reserves. It's in better financial shape in the history of this county, Washtenaw County is. It's time to tackle big problems. The inequity in education, the affordability of housing are major issues in this county. But we cannot be biased what's good for East, what's West, and this I need your vote for. You got to do what's right for the weak links in our change to make our county a better place to live. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Hodge.
Thank you. As a social worker, I have a particular focus on human services. So I would like to see us bolster our services in the health department, community mental health, and our Office of Community and Economic Development. I'm particularly excited about what would be coming up with one of our Washtenaw County Rescue Plan packages would be the start of a financial empowerment center. Just briefly about that, that'll provide free financial counseling to anyone in the county that needs it. We're also looking at having some opportunities to debt payback, to be able to help people pay down their debt and pull people out of generational poverty. So those are the kinds of services that I'm particularly interested in, making sure people have access to physical health care, to mental health care, to making sure that with our transit problems, that services can be mobile and be brought directly to people, and making sure that we put the funding behind that. And we've already taken some steps towards doing that with the health department, for example, and the mobile RV. You also asked where would the money come from? We do have a healthy general fund. We do have time limited dollars through the American Rescue Plan. But if we're looking structurally, some of the changes that we could make could come from unused funds out of the sheriff's office, for example. I mean, there are a number of places where we could pull funding from if necessary. But there are challenges with funding public health and community mental health just because of how state and federal funding works. So we will have to get creative if we're going to make permanent structural decisions to support permanent positions.
Okay, thank you. And now it's time for closing statements. We'll begin with Mr. Hodge.
I don't think Ms. Sharp got to answer that question, the previous one.
Hey, thank you.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Sharp. I think that the county is in a very, very good position financially right now. We just need to make sure we have people sitting around the table that's ready to make decisions. It's time out for us to think about things and have discussions. There are things that's already been discussed. We already see the impact of us not making decisions. So if someone was to say to me, and I have the liberty sometimes of being in the position I am of giving my advice, even when it's not solicited or not the best, but then also of listening to commissioners come and ask me for my advice. And I've said this to them, that we have to do what we need to do when we can do it and stop wasting time. We had funds coming to the county that could have made an impact, and that's it. They could have. And they still haven't. And so folks that have not been, that they have not impacted are still in the same position, even though the county is well in a position to be able to do that. You talk about programming for youth, you talk about affordable housing and all these serious issues that they have in the county, public safety, all these are critical issues. But it's time we stop talking about it. We're in a position now to do something about it. And it's gonna take attitudes to be put aside and county government, along with local units of government, and folks sit down at a table and make a difference so it can impact the constituents, which we all share, the same ones. If I had my way, I would say that we would put our attitudes aside and get down to real work of the county.
Thank you. Now we will move to closing statements. We have 90 seconds for each. Mr. Hodge, you lead off.
All right, thank you. Thank you all for your time tonight and watching this. I know these candidate forums can be really interesting or really boring, depending on how they go. So I thank all the viewers at home for watching. I'd say, especially during this time of crisis, Ypsilanti Township and Augusta Township need a strong and consistent voice on the Board of Commissioners, and someone with the courage to fight for the resources that we need, and someone that can work effectively with the rest of the other commissioners and in county government. I've proven that I am that person through the work that I've done in my first term. That's why my colleagues elected me to chair our Ways and Means Committee during my first year in office, which is really unusual for a first-term commissioner. And that's why my colleagues trusted me enough to restructure how we do our meetings to be more efficient and accessible to the public. And that's why I have the support of 7 other commissioners. I have a clear vision and specific policy proposals to address the challenges we're facing, and many of them have already initiated. I've been doing the work, and our elected and community leaders want to continue working with me. So I'm asking for your vote to continue working to create positive change together. Our campaign is about making our county a place where your race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status don't determine your destiny, a place where everybody has the opportunity to thrive and be successful. If you support that vision, then I'm asking you to vote for me on or before August 2nd and continue to work with me to make real change. Thank you again to the League for hosting this, and you can learn more about my campaign and how to get involved at votejustinhodge.com.
Thank you. Mr. Peterson.
And I'd like to thank the League for this opportunity, and for all of the citizens who will watch this. I hope you take time out to also share your views, and you can feel free to contact my office or call me on my cell. My number is listed, or email me. I think one of the things I want to say about myself is that I'm proud to serve my community. I'm really proud of that opportunity. I've served in many ways as a commissioner. I did the Human Service Building on Towner. It was my resolution to create that building, Department of Social Service, as well as Harriet Street Commerce, Eastern Spark, all of that brought, as well as the remodeling of the 14th District Court. All that brought some services here, along with the Full Circle Community Center. All of it brought service here, and I appreciate my colleagues for joining me and supporting that, as well as the Washtenaw County Dental Clinic. The first took 20 years to bring that dental clinic here to this community, to make affordable dental care accessible to all our residents in our county. The other thing I would like to mention, as state representative, I've been pleased to bring about infrastructure changes will help us in our economic growth. Our greatest challenge would be continue to protect our environment, strengthen our school and educational system, and to bring jobs to our community for our people can have a plan and a future to survive here with this rising cost of housing and the challenge of inflation that we live in every day. And we cannot compete with other communities in Washtenaw County. We are in need to pulling our community up and moving forward. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Ms. Sharp.
Again, thank you, League, for allowing me this opportunity to speak with you tonight, holding this forum. This gives an opportunity for us all to speak our concerns and introduce ourselves to the constituents of Washtenaw County, specifically in District 5. I am Latitia Sharp, and I'm ready to serve you as a commissioner in District 5. I have over 34 years of experience in Washtenaw County organization. I can come in knowing the organization from inside and out. I have worked in an independent agency in my years at Parks and Recreation, where I helped to develop programs for youth on the eastern side of the county. I have also served in human resources as an HR director, as an HR manager, where I serviced 7 different departments, including the county clerk's office and the 14th District Court. I have also currently worked in county administration, where I see the priorities and the goals and the missions that come from this board. And my job is not to change those, but part of my job is to help to operationalize those and turn them into resources and services that are pushed out into the community. I think those priorities should come from the community, and I want to bring that back to the community. I don't think county commissioners should be the voice of their own voice. I think they should be the voice of the people. So if you want the same thing, you can vote Sharp, Latitia Sharp, on November 2nd. I'm sorry, on August 2nd, and I'll be ready to serve you then.
Okay, I want to thank the candidates for participating in this valuable session that will be available to citizens around the county. And I will now turn it over again to Jill Cohen for some closing comments.
The League wishes to thank the candidates for participating in tonight's forum. And we'd like to also thank those who contributed questions. All of these candidate forums are available for streaming on your computer or smartphone. You can access by going to our website, lwvwashtenaw.org, and the link to these programs. In addition, the forums will be viewed on Ann Arbor's cable television news. Please urge your friends and fellow residents to watch these forums and to share the links with them. For additional nonpartisan information on candidates and ballot issues, go to vote411.org, the League's voter resource guide covering local, state, and federal candidates and current proposals that will appear on your ballot. And as a reminder, all voters are now eligible to cast an absentee ballot. In addition, while voters are encouraged to register ahead of time, Michigan law now provides for Election Day registration. So remember, whether by absentee ballot or in person, please be sure to vote in the August 2nd primary election. Thank you and good evening.